Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Eric G. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Today's video is going to be a bit different. We're going to rip through some news items, and then I want to take a few minutes diving into what Elon just said when it comes to FSD and the last puzzle piece. This is arguably the most important project Tesla is working on right now, so certainly worth our time. A few weeks ago, we had talked about Tesla's backup switch, which Elon and the team confirmed was going to replace the old gateway. And now we have Tesla Energy sharing a video that shows with the new way, the new Powerwall with a backup switch, it only takes 20 minutes to install compared to the old version where it took over 4 hours. There weren't many headlines on this at the time when it first came out, but clearly another example of Tesla continuing to innovate, and in this time, that's a huge change on the time for install. Doing the math, excluding travel time, Tesla can now install 12 Powerwalls with the backup switch in the same time it took them to install one with the old gateway. We have Jared sharing an image showing us some new Tesla supercharger stalls with the Magic Dock, this one in Fort Worth, Texas. Earlier this year, we saw 10 plus in the New York, Buffalo area, maybe a few in California. Now, Texas added to the list after a bit of a gap as far as we know. If you're in the area, it's the East Chase Parkway location, and it's 45 cents per kilowatt hour for non-Teslas without a membership, 33 cents per kilowatt hour for Tesla drivers or non-Teslas with a membership. Many people have asked, why is Tesla still rolling this out with so many people announcing the NACS? Well, don't forget, there's still going to be plenty of CCS cars on the road for years to come, and federal funding could be another reason. Lucas shared some images of Tesla doing FSD data collection in Switzerland, of course, preparing for FSD. We have one of Tesla's lithium hydroxide suppliers, the Yahua Group, that has revised their battery grade supply agreement with Tesla from 2020. Now it's going to be extended from 2025 to the end of 2030. If this report is correct, the new long-term contract could reach up to 81 billion yuan in value, or about $11 billion. It looks like originally the deal was going to be 2021 to 2025 and less than $1 billion of total value. So again, if this is accurate, this is a huge extension and a long-term deal. Just another example of suppliers kind of itching to work with Tesla, and Tesla needing massive supply. The talks between Tesla and India are still ongoing, but Tesla's India arm, Motor and Energy, has actually leased some office space, about 6,000 square feet, in Pune's Vinam Nagar location. As I've said before, whether Giga India is next or not, it seems very likely that at some point it's definitely coming. To any of you that might be concerned about Elon's work habits or commitment to Tesla, he just said he was buried in Tesla work all day. The UAW president just said he sees merit in a 32-hour work week, not 60 to 80 hours a week. We shouldn't have to spend 7 days a week, 12 hours a day living in factories. And he said Ford, GM, and Stellantis can easily afford big changes in the upcoming contract that help workers, saying in the first half of this year, those three combined made $21 billion in North America alone. Saying in the first half of this year, those three automakers made $21 billion combined. He also shared a list of demands some of the UAW employees are asking for, eliminating wage tiers, substantial wage increases, restoration of COLA increases, more paid time off, and increased benefits to current retirees, among others. As we all should know, sure, maybe the big three automakers can afford these changes now, but the question becomes for how long? How long can they keep up these profits, and when is the ice train, gravy train coming to an end? And it looks like those 12 former Tesla employees that left to work at Rivian will not be avoiding trial for their breach of Tesla's confidentiality agreements. A ruling still needs to be finalized, but Tesla was arguing Rivian had directly hired at least 70 of its former employees, some of whom were caught red-handed stealing core technology for next-generation batteries. It looks like this is headed to a trial. On the Tesla configurator in some locations in Europe, the Model 3 delivery dates have been pushed back, in some cases for the performance, all the way until January 2024. Potentially another crumb to the pile of Highland clues. Subaru changed its EV plans and now plans to build EVs in the United States around 2027 and to sell about 400,000 EVs in the US by 2028. Subaru will also expand its EV lineup to 8 models from an earlier planned 4. The new CEO said the US market is shifting to electrification at a rapid clip, and the situation has changed considerably in just the past few months. We also got the best look yet at the upcoming Porsche Macan without any camo. This car is supposed to launch sometime next year, and yes, that includes the US market. We don't yet have official specs, but there are rumors of it starting around $80,000 and having over 300 miles of range. And Porsche has come out and said this car is supposed to be highly digital, so we'll see what that translates to. And here we have it. This is where we need to spend a few minutes explaining what this means and what the reality might actually be. Elon said vehicle control is the final piece of the Tesla FSD AI puzzle. That'll drop over 300,000 lines of C++ control code by around 2 orders of magnitude. It's training as I write this. Our progress is currently training compute constrained, not engineer constrained. So what's going on here? So I have to temper my expectations here given Elon's track record. He's said many times the FSD team will make a breakthrough and things look great, but a few months down the line, they hit a local maximum and need to adjust the plan. When it comes to solving for autonomy, think about this analogy. Your goal is to climb the tallest mountain in the world, but you can only see a mile in front of yourself and you have no pre-existing knowledge of the location. All you know is that if you're going uphill, it's a good thing, and if you're going downhill, that's a bad thing. When you get to the top of the first hill, you can then see that maybe there's a bigger mountain that you can now see, which you'll call Mountain A. So even though going downhill is bad, you have to go down the hill towards the taller mountain. And then eventually you start going back uphill. And then maybe once you get to the peak of Mountain A, you see mountains B and C, but one's way to the left and one's way to the right, and you have to make a decision, which one do you pursue? So maybe you pick going right, you end up at the top of Mountain C. That might mean things work great in California, which we've seen when it comes to self-driving, but it may not be so great in another place like Michigan. But of course it's not that simple because you can never search the entire problem space because there's no actual defined goal in self-driving. And the complexity of the problem increases exponentially with the number of variables in the world, and when it comes to driving, there are plenty. So the best thing Tesla can do is find the fastest computer it can, Dojo, and check as many mountains as it can, which is basically training the neural net. And then you hope that your output FSD does a slightly better job than a human driver. Here are just a few examples of Elon talking about local maximums for Tesla's FSD progress in the past. 2020, autopilot was trapped in a local maximum, labeling single camera images uncorrelated in time. Now it's not. Beta 10 or maybe 10.1 going to pure vision sets us back initially, going down the hill. Vision plus coarse radar had us trapped in a local maximum like a level cap. Pure vision requires fairly advanced real-world AI, but that's how our whole road system is designed to work. Neural networks with vision. When it comes to high-resolution maps, Elon said we barked up that tree for way too long. Gives a false sense of victory of being close. That should sound familiar. A tantalizing local maximum. But reality is just too messy and weird. Our new system is capable of driving in locations we've never seen once. So, keeping all of that context in mind, what does the rest of this mean? Basically, in this realm, you don't know it's solved until, well, it's solved. Yes, it may be training right now, like Elon said, making great progress, but until it hits another local maximum, and then Tesla has to figure out why. So you don't really know you're in a local maximum unless you've explored the whole problem space and proved you're at a local maximum, aka seeing a new higher mountain. Eventually though, one of these times Tesla will find the global maximum, the highest peak in the world per se, but is that going to be this time around? We'll see. There are people out there that argue Tesla needs radar or LiDAR to climb the global peak, but personally, I'm not one of them. You may also hear people talking about end-to-end. The simplest explanation is to think of 3 pillars or phases of full self-driving. Perception, the car perceiving the world around it. Planning, deciding what to do and when. and control, actually changing lanes, braking, etc. If you're an Office fan, just remember the PPC, Party Planning Committee, or in this case, Perception Planning Control. Right now, Tesla is in the process of transitioning from code written by engineers for the control pillar, but they're working on using neural nets alongside of the code to eventually replace the manual code. So from perception to control, it'll actually be controlled by neural networks that can essentially train themselves. As you can imagine though, to do the math and explore all of the scenarios that exist, hiking to different mountains, it takes an absurd amount of compute power. What Elon said makes it seem like hiring more engineers would not help expedite the process nearly as much as more compute power would, hence Project Dojo. The big question remains, with vehicle control dropping from 300,000 lines of C++ code down to around 3,000, that's a significant drop in manual code. But the trade-off becomes more training compute power is then needed to process video data that's fed through the neural nets, controlling that control, or the third pillar. I'm not a machine learning engineer, so I can't really say what the remaining 3,000 lines of code would be used for, but 2 orders of magnitude fewer lines of code could of course free up some engineers to work on other things, and it's a huge step toward Tesla getting to end with what we believe will be FSD Beta 12 when it's no longer a beta. Then from there, with most of the FSD stack running neural nets and Dojo continually scaling and doing more work, things could most certainly accelerate, paving a way for huge progress throughout 2024. This all becomes confusing though because the car doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be safer than a human. Not all drivers are Max Verstappen out there, many are more like Michael Scott. So the real question is, which mountain peak will be good enough for regulators and thus good enough for Tesla to take responsibility and shift to a level 4 or 5 SAE framework? When Elon hinted that they figured out FSD a few weeks back, perhaps this is what he meant. Tesla knows what to do, now they just need to do it. So this is certainly a huge step forward, and if you just imagine 300,000 lines of code, you can understand why it's great progress, but the question remains. Will they hit another local maximum in another few months, or will Tesla find a global peak that's good enough and then we're off to the races? Either way, we'll be here watching it all unfold. You can find me on X at DylanLoomis22. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.